Welcome to Community Cuts, live from Brooklyn, New York. Hosted by Salon Lee, 732 Washington Avenue, between Prospect Place and Park Place. If you're looking for professional beauticians or professional barber, look no more. 732 Washington Avenue, 718 230 4100. Ask for Winsome. Live from Brooklyn, New York. Our hosts, Donnatella and Rickie James.
I think that means we can jump right in, Rickie. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Ready.
Oh, ooh. Did you guys know that Rickie James was a rapper in his younger days? I heard that, representing Brooklyn. So super excited on this Friday. Not only do we have one amazing guest, but apparently we have three and a guest in the our auditorium in the salon. I'm so hyper today, you guys. I can't speak. Before we get started on this Friday, which we have some great topics. We're excited. This is going to be a very interesting election. I'm heartbroken that my candidate for mayor is not in the race anymore, but still have to vote. So now you got to pick the best because every vote counts. And we have Miss Sharon Wedderburn visiting, who's going to talk to us about early election voting, the importance of flipping the ballot. And there's another gentleman here. His name is Christian Baxter. I like that name as well. Nice names. He's going to be here to talk to us about proposals. And I think when people vote, for the most part, everybody pays attention to the front and not necessarily so much the back. And this time, we want you to be educated before you go into the booth. Have some chances to figure out. Now, I am going to do something which is really hard for me, and that's be quiet. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Sharon. It's very true, right? I'd like you to introduce yourself and then.
Sure. So my name is Sharon Wedderburn. I am a lifelong resident of Brooklyn, as they say, born and raised. I'm currently called Crown Heights home, but I've called Prospect Heights home before that. I've been engaged for quite a while. I've been on the community board, and it's my volunteer and community commitment work prior to that that led me to this. I wanted to be able to do something for the community in which I was living, and also realizing that if you're not engaged, you really don't know what happens or what is happening. And by the time something has happened, it's something that may not work with you or the community around you. So I've been doing that for about 20 years. Currently I chair the Housing and Land Use Committee for Community Board 8, which represents the communities of Prospect Heights, Crown Heights, and Weeksville. But tonight, I'm here to talk about the ballot initiatives because tomorrow is day one of early voting. Absolutely. I'm so excited about early voting because it gives people a lot of options by which they cast their ballot. It gives you an opportunity to participate in democracy. So many people say that my vote doesn't count. If your vote didn't count and it wasn't valuable, so many people would not be trying to restrict access to the ballot.
Absolutely.
So aside from the fact that we have an election cycle that we did not quite expect, having the incumbent mayor dropping out of the race, having someone who's relatively young serving in the assembly and is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, presently serving in Albany, who is the front runner, and that's Zoran Mandani. If you haven't been checking the news,
right?
I almost can't say that. I can almost say this is one of the few election cycles that I think people can't ignore.
Absolutely.
You look at the campaign cycles, styles, events that are associated. They're very different from what you're accustomed to seeing. And even if you don't see the debates or you haven't seen any of the debates, some of the clips are epic, right? Yes. And it really points to, some of the things that we're really concerned about. Why can this young man be the front runner in the Democratic Party? Because there's an issue that we have to address in New York City, and it's so expensive to live here. So I won't say affordability because it's affordable for whom, affordable for what, but certainly the ballot initiatives try and point towards some things. Specifically, there's 6 ballot initiatives, which means that when you cast your vote for mayor, public advocate, your city council person, and you think you're finished, flip your ballot over. There's more for you to consider.
Absolutely.
So there's 6 ballot initiatives, right? The first one is a statewide initiative, because people will say, well, this has to do with upstate. What does that have to do with us?
Right.
But we are residents of New York State. Ballot initiatives 2 through 6 are New York City centric, right? Directly affects us because it's part of the Charter Revision Commission. And people say, what is the charter? What is the New York City Charter? The New York City Charter is our Constitution. So if you make changes to a Constitution, you will have to live with them for a long time. So, the question to ask is, and there's this whole push for affordability, because when affordability, especially in regards to housing, and I think the discussion has been framed improperly. And this is what I say. So when you look at quote unquote affordable housing, right? Affordability, and there's something they call the area median income, AMI, right? So what it essentially saying is that you need $90,000 to be housed and to be good, right? So you talk about, long-term service workers, the people that we rely upon, right? Deliveristas, the home health aides, the paraprofessionals in schools, the preschool teachers, right? Those are the people that are having the hardest time, because having a quote unquote affordable housing means that you don't spend more than 30% of your income towards housing. And we all know people on a regular basis, they're paying 50, 60, 70% of housing. Then you have to feed yourself. Then you have to get yourself to work. So what's really left? What kind of quality of life do you have? And do you have any ability to invest either in your health? Because we know, because of the politics in Washington, everybody should be concerned about health insurance.
Right.
But how can you quote unquote save for your future? Right. And there are too many people. New York City is a place where most people do not own their homes. We're a city of renters. And we have a generation that has given up on the possibility of renting. So one of the interesting things that you see is that when new development comes into our community, because a lot of development has happened and zoning has changed, so there will be more within this community, or nearby communities. The thing, younger people, and I say younger, we're talking about 30-somethings, right? They want studios. So I had to ask a young man, it's like, why studios, right? Because that means we can live on our own and we don't have to have roommates. When we were coming up, by the time we were 30, we didn't have roommates. We had the ability to step
in my household at 18, you had to get out and go to university or go to the military.
Yeah. So, I was definitely one of the kids on that trajectory, out to college. But, sometimes you come home, you're trying to, you graduate, you're looking for that first job. You have the first job because people want you to leave the nest and not return, which means you have to have a solid foundation, you know? So, you do see people coming back and living home for a couple of years before they move out. But here's the problem with and particularly for our communities, because what I love about Central Brooklyn is that we're known for stable residency. People don't move a lot,
Right. Once they get into a place.
Well, and there used to be a ladder.
Why should they move a lot? That's what always puzzled my mind. Why should they?
But some people see it as upward mobility, right? But
you start small and eventually the goal is home ownership. And I just want to jump back to something you said earlier to make sure I was clear. In this day and age, you spoke about we're in a land where there are a lot of renters. And I think you said that today's younger individuals have given up. Have they given up on renting or have they given up on home ownership?
Home ownership.
Okay.
Home ownership.
I just wanted to.
It's not so much that they've given up on it.
It's difficult.
But it's so far out of their reach. And, I was speaking to a young man who's, married, right? He and his wife are looking for their first home. They have a very healthy budget, right? And so just like, I'm not disclosing anything that's personal, but he has a steady job. He works for the state. His wife has just completed her residency, right? And they cannot find or are having difficulty finding a home that meets the requirements in our community. That's
affordable.
They can't. They are having difficulty identifying something they can buy with their very healthy. What would be a very healthy budget in any other place? right?
Mhm.
And it's, one of the things, it's the success of Brooklyn because
Mhm.
people used to say, oh, you live in Brooklyn. And, for those of us who have been here for a long time, know the amenities that are available in Brooklyn, the
Mhm.
quality of life that you have, the sense of community,
Mhm.
right? And, and that's one of the questions about the studio apartments because long-term residents are like, studios because we're a very stable community, right? And studios pretend to transients. You're going to move because there's only but so long that you're going to live in a studio, right? So what happens, especially the political power that was accumulated by central Brooklyn communities, which were predominantly Black, right,
Mhm.
from the 50s until now. So what does that say? Is this an economic plan or is it a political plan? So people have concerns about that as well.
Well, I think for people who are watching, I think this is a lot of information to take in. But I also want to say for those who are struggling for first time purchases for home ownership, the city and state does have quite a few programs. You should learn the district that you live in, familiarize yourself with your council members, your assembly members, your senators, and then also research first time homeowner programs like NACA. Harlem Empowerment Zone has a lot of trainings, SBS Small Business Solutions. I mean, there are a lot of entities to help you, but we still have millions and millions of people.
Well, so when you think
Yeah.
about it, if you look at our median price for homes,
Mhm.
right? It's floating around, and I'm including smaller apartments, right? Not just houses, but if you're looking, including apartments, it's floating around 850 to $1.1 million.
Yep.
So in order to have a down payment and closing costs is about $230,000. It takes a long time to save that money, especially if you have that family.
Right. And let's not talk about the struggles of having the appropriate credit score to
Correct.
qualify for funding,
Yeah.
having the disposable cash to sit inside of a bank account for those 3
Correct.
months in order to qualify for those mortgages. I also we jumped right into housing. I want to go back to something that's very, very, very important. We are living, and again, the comments that are being shared by each person is the comments of that individual, not necessarily the platform. So I may say something that Sharon may not agree with,
vice versa.
or Rickie, and so on. But in my opinion, we are living in a very, very troubling time. As recently as the beginning, 2 days ago, we see a lot more presence of ICE in our community and other federal agencies. And I think it is ironic of the timing, right? So we've had all this year where there was some little incidents. There were No Kings rallies, depending on how you want to refer to it, or protests. There were peaceful protests in different boroughs, and all of a sudden, the week of voting, the week the voting starts, pay attention. Now there's this heavy presence, which I think is meant to also intimidate people from coming out. So I want to go back to voting and make sure that we talk a little bit more about it in detail. So number one, if you're watching, are you a registered voter? That's number one, because nothing bothers me more than all the people on social media or in your face that have all these opinions about what's happening in the administration.
And don't
have
vote.
have the
And don't
ability
vote.
to vote. Because let's remember, in the last presidential election, there were 85 million people who were registered to vote who did not vote. Right. So I'm saying this to people who are like me, who are diehard Eric Adams supporters. You still have to vote. Right. Or next year, I don't want you sitting down whining and complaining about what next year's mayor is doing if you didn't show up to vote.
And even I look at it more importantly because one of the ballot initiatives is that to put the state and local elections in the same cycle as the presidential elections. So imagine how much we have to absorb with the presidential election.
Right.
We're going to have, primaries and what have you, right? It's enough so this year we're doing city, right? Next year we're going to do state, right?
State, then
And if you
federal.
talk about state gubernatorial, we know that the President of the United States is laying out a welcome, a runway for a close ally of his who was in Congress
Right.
to run against the incumbent.
Right.
Right. And so, you're looking at those dynamics, and
Mhm.
that's something that you have to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
And people will say it doesn't matter, but yes, it does.
No,
Just like
it absolutely does matter.
and just like there are people that say, well, I don't follow politics, but politics affects every manner of your life because it
Mhm.
affects policy. So
Mhm.
if it's having a open street,
Mhm.
right? Or if it's, having supporting the rights of those who can fall under the American with Disabilities Act, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
If it's for our seniors, if it's our housing policy, you have to pay attention, right? And unfortunately, it's unfortunate. One of my favorite lines from the Bandani Cuomo Sliwa event, right,
Mhm.
The most recent one. Okay.
was when Andrew Cuomo, who's the former governor of New York State, right,
Mhm.
said that New York City had been shortchanged by the state government. And he's like, who? And Mandami's answer was, well, who was running the government? You were
Mhm.
governor. And it's
Mhm.
like, you start to see that relationship, how one thing will trickle down to another.
Yeah, but to be fair, some of the points that were being made, and I am not a Cuomo supporter. I liked him when he was governor up until I started seeing a lot of Black and brown seniors perishing in nursing homes, right?
As they say, grannies and fannies.
Right, right. But to his point, some of the things that were being pushed toward him when he was in office did not fall under the responsibility of governor. They were a mayoral responsibility.
But so because I'm a close observer of these things, particularly in our community, right?
Mhm.
So we know that oftentimes the relationship between then Governor Cuomo
Mhm.
and local electeds, particularly the Assembly of People, could be fraught with conflict,
Mhm.
right? And his willingness to punish a community to
Mhm.
teach a lesson to a state
Sounds a lot like
representative.
Trump.
That sounds very dirty.
Yeah, it
That
sounds a
sounds
lot
very
like Trump.
dirty.
It's clean. I mean, and I'm not trying to call out the controversy and call
Right.
out the different people that were involved, but he definitely made a decision to cause an action that adversely affected our community. And it's not
Right.
for the then, it's the cascading effects afterwards, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
one only has to look into downstate.
Downstate.
And that's
Yeah.
that's about as much as I'm gonna
and
say.
luckily, I attended a fundraising event for my assembly member from my district, District 43, which is Brian Cunningham,
Mhm.
fundraising event where I met the young lady who actually is the recipient or in charge of the $1 billion that just went into
Mhm.
downstate for funding, which for me was so inspirational to see this person, and she looked like me, right? That is one of the things that for next year, when you talk about the programs that are available for small businesses, Black and brown businesses, I want people to pay attention. And I think it's rather clever as we come to the end of this administration. It seems very intentional to me that this administration on the mayor's level is making sure that they do a live report of the high level programs they have and the statistics that exist for that program before ending this administration.
Absolutely.
Because what typically happens, especially with people who don't follow politics, all you know is the person who's in office now, you don't really like them. You don't listen to them. And on January 4th or whatever date it is that the new administration comes in, they start talking about these programs that already existed.
Mhm.
And then the not so, and I'm trying very hard not to insult anybody, but the not so engaged political person then attributes that success
Absolutely.
to that administration. So one of the things that I saw that just started this past Monday, which for me, a survivor of domestic violence, and 11 years now, I've had someone stalking me, and the city just can't seem to do anything about him. Is there's an entirely new, improved domestic violence department, which is
Yep.
putting out 450 new officers, so a DV officer dedicated to DV issues. Because as a DV surviving person, one of the most frustrating things was having to go into a precinct and telling the story over and over again.
You just
each,
pick up
each person who
you
has
just
something
pick
to
up
say.
the phone, call 311. He goes directly to them. Now I saw them being administered.
But here's the thing.
I
It's
would
not
say
a
go
new
into
model
precinct.
because it exactly follows the Child Advocacy Center models. And the Child Advocacy Center models were children who up until the age of 11 were sexually abused.
Right.
And that was one of the core tenets because, if someone's being abused, go ahead and tell. Nobody's going to believe you. And if you ask a child or you ask a child and keep asking them the same thing over and over again, they feel like they're not going to be believed. Whereas also an adult, when you go to a precinct and you have an officer turn their back on you and you're in need of assistance, it's like, hey, I'm a law-abiding citizen. What's going on here? Right?
It's that, but it's also, I think, the lack of training, right? So there's a whole new curriculum for training. I personally, each time I went into a precinct, I found that it was a disadvantage for me to be kind of easy on the eye. Luckily, my parents look all right, right? So I'm attractive when I go in. I stayed in school, so I'm articulate. And I found that unless you look like your face was dragged across the sidewalk, no one was really trying to help me. And I think part of that is because as a Black and brown person, I don't know about your home, but when I was growing up as a child, in my family, my mother didn't accept any excuses. There were things that you had to do.
Absolutely.
And every Black mama will tell you when you start to complain, when I was a child, blah, blah, blah. So you're expected to get up and keep
Well,
going.
I remember the agony of filling out a complaint form inside the police department. Now they got the 311 issue.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if that works.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sticking behind.
I'll tell you something else about 311 that a lot of people don't know that I use a lot. So early this year, I received an award for I advocate under my small business, and I've helped 73 families who are facing housing insecurities keep their home or get onto voucher programs or whatever it is. But you can text 311 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's a live person that responds to you, and they will give you any information. So for those of you watching, it's 311-692. You simply send a text, you'll get an automated response that comes back. For those of you who hear noise in the background, this is a live salon which has stylists, barbers, and we have visitors. So, it's live. You hear ringtones, just pay attention to the speaking word.
Yeah.
But so send a text to 311-692. You get an automated response and you can ask them any question.
Yeah.
Now, I work in tech, so I'm very comfortable in that situation. So for me, yesterday I was helping someone. They gave me their address and they didn't know who their city council member was. So I texted and asked for the city council member. They told the name and I said, can you give me the address and the address and the phone number. So those of you who don't know where you're supposed to vote, you don't know where your district is, you can send a message to 311.
Don't listen to their mail. The mail is coming to them and it's listed right there. Your voting place is here.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised how many people no longer pay attention to what I call snail mail, right?
Snail mail.
And actually, if you're looking to market anything and you want to hold anybody's attention, because I also have like a consulting business, right? The easiest way to get yourself in front of a stakeholder, a key person, send them something by mail. If you were in your office, although some people work remote, and you were to receive a package in your office as opposed to an email, how quickly would you open that package? Because how often do you get a package?
You would sort of look at it. What is this?
But most people open it. Right?
And most people stack mail, because it's just more efficient given the fact that you have a lot of junk mail that comes in with the mail.
Well, if I'm thinking not in the office place, how much junk mail do you get in your office addressed to you? Not very much, right? So for me, if you're competing for a job, everybody knows there's an email, but I would look up the CEO, the CIO, depending on what field you're in of that organization, and snail mail your resume along and do what they do in Asia, right? As long as you have a professional look, depending on what you're doing, and add a image to your resume. So for me, I used to put a profile image, but I work in IT or training, and it's a classroom environment, and it would be a female, but I would have a female representing multiple nationalities. So the person who's receiving the resume wouldn't know if I was the Black woman, the white woman, or the green woman in the picture. And I almost always would get a call and an invitation because it's so competitive now. You have to think of something different to do.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So if there's one thing before we go on to reiterate what you were saying about the voting and the housing, what's one thing, if you could get everyone to do something when it comes to voting, what's the one thing you would want them to do?
So I'm going to be very New York centric, right?
Okay.
And I'm going to look at the ballot initiatives 2, 3, and 4,
Mhm.
right? And I'll go back and read it at some point what they are. But it's like, do you want a more affordability? And everybody's going to say yes. The next question you have to ask is, at what cost? Right?
Ooh.
And what happens with those 3 initiatives, and we also have to remember, the city just did this massive rezoning, which is called City of Yes, right?
Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
This is the bow tie on top of City of Yes to make sure that, in my opinion, that developers can absolutely limit their interaction with the community. So they can build something in the community and not get any feedback, right?
Right.
That's so. What was the young lady's name that was here a week or two ago? Do you remember, Duke, the young lady that was here who was speaking about zoning? Can't remember.
Alicia Boyd?
Alicia Boyd.
yeah.
Yes. So Alicia Boyd was here and she was talking about that very passionately. And I want to ask you, when it comes to those initiatives, is there an initiative that we're voting on that, and I think that's what you were saying, whether we agree that the city level no longer has to interact with the approval and that it's only assigned to the mayor? Isn't that one of?
So that's the 4th of 2, 3, and 4, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
And what happens in that particular initiative, so I hope we have a chance to do it a little bit more orderly, but in that particular initiative, there's something called in a city council, council deference.
Mhm.
So if the local council
I've never heard that.
person
I've never
is
heard that.
opposed to a project, right?
Mhm.
The other members, for the most part, it doesn't happen all the time, right? But for the most part, it's like, okay, because our colleague is opposed to this particular project and they know that community best, we too are going to vote no, right?
Oh, okay.
We too are going to vote no. So with the 4th ballot initiative, they create a board where it consists of the mayor or his representative, the borough president, and the city council speaker. So the council has said no to the project, and this board can override the decision of the city council.
Okay.
So it takes away a significant power and role that the city council plays.
Okay. And so we have a relatively large space here. Mr. Baxter, you said you were speaking about proposals. Are these the things that you're going to talk about as well?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know how we're going to do this. I want to make sure everything you want to share with us, we get out first, and then
Sure.
and then I'll invite you up as well.
So, so again, I want to emphasize the housing issues, and I want to read the ballot initiative so people can see what they are. So
Please do.
hold on, let me just pull this out.
So you
Handy dandy
guys
device.
get out your notebook, your pen and your pencil, your phones, and get ready to take notes.
So the first one that I'd like to talk about is the ballot proposal number 2, and it's to fast track affordable, and I put that in quotations,
Mhm.
housing to build more affordable housing across the city. So what we're seeing is that affordable housing developments have not gone into all communities. The communities that are primarily single family homes, right? For example, Douglas in Queens, Bayside, Queens, Southeast Queens. I'm sorry, I'm picking on Queens. I should go to South Brooklyn. Maybe Mill Basin, maybe Marine Park, right? I think they're all part of the same community board.
Mhm.
I'm not seeing the same level of development for affordability.
Not seeing.
Like
All right.
we are getting the lion's share. District 35, Fort Greene, Brooklyn Heights, Crown Heights, Prospect Heights. The whole Atlantic Avenue corridor has just been rezoned, right? So you have low-lying residential areas where we're seeing very tall buildings, right? So,
Mhm.
and you're increasing the density, and the rationale is it's near transit hubs. And I would say that developers are going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg because there's only so much capacity in the subways. But that aside, the point of ballot number 2, right, is that you're again saying, listen, if we're going to do all of this, what we're going to have to do is create, because there's a process called the Uniform Land Use Review process, right? And
ULURP.
it's ULURP, right? And they want to implement something called a ELURP, Expedited Land Use Review
Yes, I saw
process.
that.
So part of the ULURP process, which is the present process, which is a period over 7 months, is to consolidate or limit the amount of time which the borough president and the local community board considers, right? So that's 60 days. The community board is the first time that there is widespread, like you can invite the community to come in because it's an open meeting. There's an agenda, you know exactly what project they're going to decide. So you have members of the community board that are appointed. You have community members of that same committee because they're going to do a public hearing. So you're going to cut out their voice because we're average citizens. We volunteer. How are we going to scramble to be able to do something that's expedited? Oftentimes, the community board and the borough president don't see eye to eye. So essentially, it's like we don't want to deal with the community board, so let's cut them out. We don't want the community to have any say about it.
Right.
And then you have to rely upon an elected official who is a borough president. That person changes because of the election cycle, right? Do you have someone that sees eye to eye on something that you find essential? The community may value deep affordability. The community may value having units for seniors or LGBTQ people or people that have been justice involved. Because they live in the communities where these projects are being served, they know what the needs are. Someone will say, I want to see justice involved people prioritized in this housing, but we know that seniors are being displaced from our communities because the most affordable housing usually resides within brownstones, especially the
Yep.
2-family brownstones, right?
Yep.
So and we see a lot of housing turnover, and a lot of that is generational, right? You know, people are older, 80, 90 years old.
Or people are illegally stealing deeds.
Well, no, that's a
Yeah.
whole nother
I
issue
know.
altogether.
I know.
Because those who steal deeds are not giving us the affordable rents,
Right.
they're in it for the buck, right?
Right.
But we see seniors being displaced because they were renting from their friends for the past 40 years,
Yeah.
and their pension and Social Security can't match what the market rate is. And we know that because we see the changes in the community, right? So, having those kinds of conversations, you're removing the first level of review for the community, right? And then we talked about ballot initiative 4, where they're removing the city council's voice in that. And so what are we seeing? It's more developer driven, and it's being driven from outside. So we want more affordable housing. We don't have to have a change in our city charter. There's specific programs, projects, building types, for example, HDFCs, which are affordable ownership opportunities. And I can't remember what H housing development, I can't remember what the acronym is. But you have an opportunity to buy homes. And you can accomplish that without a revision to the charter. So the revision to the charter is really like, let's remove the community voice.
Yeah, and let's give the mayor more power to do.
Exactly.
I see that you're being very, very nice and kind with your with your wording, and that's what I'm here for because I'm an Aries. that's like my favorite scene. So I feel like did you get to all the different?
So I'm going to talk about another ballot initiative that's also
okay.
Because it said 2, 3, and 4. So let me talk about ballot 3, ballot initiative 3. And that is simplify the review of modest housing and infrastructure projects.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Simplify review of modest housing and infrastructure projects.
And so for the regular everyday person.
So here's the thing, right? So they're trying to combine 2 things at one time, right?
Okay.
So one of the things that we learned from Hurricane Sandy is that we need to be more aware of the sustainability and environmental effects of climate change. right?
Right.
Those would be the infrastructure projects.
Mhm.
But what they're lumping in is like, listen, if we're building a 4-story building, does it need the same level of scrutiny, right,
Mhm.
as a mega project? It may not
Yes,
need it may
yes.
not need the same
Yeah.
level of scrutiny, but they need to go through the process.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's where the yes is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the
Right.
yes
All
is.
right again.
So we're giving up again community voice and review,
Mhm.
right? So again, so
Which
you're
is why every time I turn around, there's a different high-rise building, which makes me a bit of a hypocrite because I currently live in a high-rise building.
But here's the thing,
which-
you have choice. And one of the things people think, and this whole conversation about affordability is not about supply, because if you follow quote unquote Keynesian economics, right?
Mhm.
If you have more supply, then the prices will go down.
Right.
New York City real estate does not operate on market forces or Keynesian economics.
No.
What we have is a cartel.
Yes.
Right? And there is price setting that is pegged to the area median income. So,
and they're finding ways to actually to modify that, loopholes. There is a building close to me that maybe is 5 or 6 floors, I think. And when I went there, they have commercial spaces, a mixed use building, commercial space at the bottom. And I was speaking to someone who said that every person and this is in Flatbush, every person in that building was a non-Black and brown person. And that it was a building that participates in the tax abatement, so they have affordable housing. But to qualify to live in the building, you actually had to be making 6 figures.
Mhm.
And so that is a loophole.
So, and that's actually
Yes.
based on, and part of that is the kind of financing that they were able to attain.
Mhm.
And we also have to go looking back towards a policy that was implemented during the de Blasio era, mandatory inclusionary housing.
Mhm.
There are communities that are exempt from mandatory inclusion
Mhm.
housing,
Mhm.
and communities like ours that are subject to MIH, right? We're seeing what? A rapid escalation in rent. So if you look back to 2013,
Mhm.
a 1-bedroom apartment was around $2,300, right? If you look now, that same apartment's on the market for $3,400.
Well, I'll tell you, the apartment that I reside in when I moved in, it's a brand new building, finished in 2019. I moved in during the pandemic, December 2020, second person on my floor. It's 2-bedroom, 2-bath. They were marketing it for $4,200. Gave you incentivized, gave you, I think it was 1 or 2 months rent free, 35, 83, 33, which is in a building with 50,000 square feet of amenities, not so bad, right? During the pandemic, toward the end of the pandemic, there was a rush to flip the building. This is my unprofessional opinion, to flip the building from being 99.9% Black and brown to marketing it to everybody else. Especially after so many people passed, that people were moving out of the city. My same apartment, my same model, underneath me was being priced at $6,700. And hello, this is on Linden Boulevard in Brooklyn, right? And so I think they
And I
got
would say it's not the brown, it's the green. Who makes those salaries that can support those rents?
Well, right. So what I saw happening at an alarming rate is that people were moving into the building, even during the pandemic, right? People were moving into the building sight unseen. A lot of people from out of the country, right? And it's just like I'm a survivor of 9/11. I worked for Lehman Brothers back then when everyone left downtown, right? The Tribecas, and they moved right across the bridge. That first big bump of gentrification when they created Dumbo and Vinegar Hill and those areas. Those are the type of people that are moving into the building. And it makes sense if you're in Manhattan and you're paying $10,000 a month for an apartment this big, and someone tells you, hey, here in Brooklyn, you can get twice as much apartment space, 50,000 square feet of amenities. And by the way, you don't have to support the mom and pop stores because you can literally just sleep here, take your car service when you work late from the city, and then go back into the city and hang out. And that's what I see at an alarming rate. My building has 467 units in that building.
So what I would say to that, just to offer a counter,
Mhm.
I know I've had colleagues that, started, it's like, okay, I'm going to, they live in Manhattan. They
Mhm.
know I live in Brooklyn, right?
Mhm.
And, I'm like Brooklyn do or die,
Mhm.
right? Probably, things
I
buried
get it.
in Brooklyn,
Right.
and they would go apartment hunting, and they
Mhm.
would report back to me that, hey, Sharon, Brooklyn's not cheap. And
Yeah.
let me give you a couple of examples. In the last mayoral race, right?
Mhm.
A former co-head of investment banking at Citigroup, Ray
Mhm.
McGuire, was asked
Mhm.
by L. Joy Williams, who is now the New York State director of the NAACP. Right?
Okay.
How much do you believe a house costs in Brooklyn? And he struggled because he lives in a very prestigious, elite building that abuts Central Parkway.
Mhm.
Just know that as a matter of course, right?
Oh.
Yep. Mhm.
So he was like, well, how much does a house cost in Brooklyn? And he's like, Brooklyn, right? And you can see he's trying to figure, he goes, $90,000. That was 4 years ago, right?
What
So
house was he thinking about?
that didn't even exist in
Well,
fantasy.
that's because his mind is thinking back to Spike Lee's movie Crooklyn, right? He doesn't realize, and I learned this from talking to Randy Pierce, who's the president of Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce.
Mhm.
Brooklyn, and I noticed it when it happened, right? As pretty much after 9/11, when a lot of businesses started modifying their business name to where it started with the word Brooklyn.
Exactly.
Brooklyn is global, right? And I will say this as a joke, but I tell people all the time, there may be 5 boroughs, but there's only one borough that counts, and that's Brooklyn. And I wasn't born here. I grew up in Maryland. I was born down south.
And what you say about a global brand, you're quite right. I remember traveling in Italy. I'm in Genoa, Italy, right?
Mhm.
I'm at a counter, picking up gum.
Mhm.
There was Brooklyn gum in
Mhm.
Genoa, Italy. I'm like, okay, what are we going to do here?
It is. It's kind of like my stepfather is Jamaican, and that side of my family. It's like no matter where I go in the world, I'll see a Jamaican, right? It's just some things are international. You got the part. International and global, and Brooklyn is that, but a lot of I should say all of the boroughs now are struggling with gentrification. And the part that's sad to me,
Very sad.
when I walk through different neighborhoods, and I know everybody thinks I'm 27, right? But I moved here in like 99. So I've been here a minute. And I remember certain blocks that I was nervous to walk down by myself. And now in those same areas where it is a feeling of more safety and improved buildings and things, it saddens me that I don't see the same grandmothers and grandfathers or aunts and uncles who probably lived here all their life. And now that they're, higher, better, healthier places to eat, more comfortable places to reside in, they can't afford.
I actually lived on one of those blocks, right? That had a very bad reputation.
Mhm.
And the first year I signed a 1-year lease, right? It's like, we'll see how it goes, because
Right.
everything else checked the box, right?
Yeah.
And when I realized that the elders, right, the older men that had been porters in new buildings, they really kept an eye out, and I was sick, because so they would ask me the question, it's like, you're just coming home from work? But you left so early this morning. Like, who's clocking my time?
and that's the interesting thing. That's the interesting thing, because there's neighborhood watch, people who are proactively, and I guess that's the SLEWAs,
and
right?
even if you don't have block watchers, and I say this about as someone who grew up in Brooklyn, you always had the abuelas, or you had somebody that was very interested in the going
When
on.
I lived in Queens,
and that's what I was about to say.
When I lived in Queens, they had the Gray Panthers.
Oh,
And they watched the
Gray
Panthers. So was too old. Gray Panthers.
Oh, wait. So wait, I have never heard that term. So I'm familiar with Black Panthers, and so Gray Panthers were the more seniors,
The elders.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with everything that's going on, we need that back again.
Yeah.
So
We do.
I
That's
want
so
to.
true.
We
It's
don't
also
have
white
commercial.
Panthers.
We don't have commercial breaks here, but we do have some other people. So I want to make
absolutely.
sure that, is there anything else that you want to tell our onlookers? Because I'm going to spice up some of what we're talking about tonight and dump it on my YouTube, my Instagram profile
Very good.
tomorrow. Anything else you can
So
think
I
of?
did talk about the affordable
If you're not
housing.
leaving, you can always come back if you think of something.
I'm going to step aside. There's something just,
Okay.
and it's another ballot proposal. I don't know,
Yeah.
Christian, if you want to talk, but I think Christian.
Yeah,
should talk
Christian
about
said
it.
he's going to talk
Yeah.
about some proposals.
Talk about the digital. I'm going to step aside. Talk about the digital city map and the sixth initiative.
Or since we're putting you on the spot, whatever it is you came prepared to talk about, you should talk about, and then we'll fan it back to Sharon because it's live, you all. He may not be ready to talk about that topic.
So Christian, you're up, and we're going to reverse seats.
Okay, so we'll just have the little musical chairs.
Oh, yeah.
And while we're doing that, excuse me, we're having musical chairs behind the camera. So you can trade seats. There you go. So he doesn't stand off to the corner. You can hand him that mic, right? Because there's a microphone right here. Okay, so let's take 1 or 2 minutes. Can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Christian Baxter, Brooklyn born and raised for as long as I can remember. Grandmother, mother, father, both full household. Both were all three were raising me.
Very reliable.
My great grandmother and I have.
Very reliable person.
Oh, so nice. Multi generations here in Brooklyn. Not a fraudster like myself, who just snuck into the state. So, what would you like to talk to us about tonight, Christian?
Let's go with. I'm going to keep it simple, keep it real.
Okay.
You see the vote proposals, no matter what it says. No, I'm just going to keep it simple. It sounds beautiful. It sounds the wording, oh, affordable housing, oh, modernization, oh, we're going to make it simplified, this simplified. Ain't none of that true. If it sounds so sweet, what does that often mean? It's poison. When it tastes so sweet, what does that mean? It's poison. So when you read the fine print for most of these ballots, when you read it, and you go, you're going to get affordable housing but we need to take away all of your rights to do whatever you were doing. Who is going to take these rights? Who is accepting or absorbing all of these rights? I have to be unkind. The mayor was the one who wanted 2 through 6. To absorb all of those powers before leaving. However, that's why he was so, in a way, upset that he had to leave, because he was already prepared for his next term. He knew that these proposals was going to take him to the next level when it came to how he was going to use our land. Now, proposal 1, even though it's state initiatives, ask yourself one question. We've had immigration issues where we're like, we need to find places, villages, towns, places to put people so they can rebuild their lives, so that they can do more, so that we can actually do more with these people. Did we take this land that they want to use for deforestation and put people there to make them, give them better lives and better houses? No, we trying to put a stadium there. Wait a minute, quote unquote, Olympic stadium. And it sounds beautiful, doesn't it? It sounds like, oh, we're going to have it. And they want to do it because it's a rush thing, because the Olympics is coming and we're going to have something there. What are you doing for the next how many years after the stadium is not being used? Nobody's thinking about the future of content.
Well, I dislike talking about subjects that I'm not prepared or I haven't researched, but one of the things I would say is that if there is an Olympic-sized stadium that's built somewhere, we probably would then begin competing with a Brooklyn the Met Stadium or something of that level.
You sound like you're talking, we're going to compete with money. Somebody is going to privatize the land to enjoy the profits of public land for a very few group of people for many decades later to come, and everybody else is like, we destroyed a whole entire forest just so you can get paid. Not we can get paid, not the whole state.
Wait. So let's be fair.
Okay.
If it's a forest, no one lives in the forest right now?
There's a lot of animals. There's a lot of plants. There's a lot. Oh, wait, we're going to get to that in a second.
Hold on. So I'm I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
And I know this is a very slippery slope when you're speaking to people who love nature and who love animals, right? I just had a conversation with someone about a fish in a tank, and you know, the fish specialist was taken back when the owner of the fish aquarium told him if he puts the fish in the fish tank, the fish might die because we were changing locations of the aquarium, right?
Mhm.
And the owner of the fish tank said, well, if he dies, he dies.
Ooh.
The specialist who was paid to clean the fish tank was so bothered that while the owner of the fish tank slept, he left with the fish.
Took the fish home.
And
Time to go. It's time to go.
I have to tell you all, I
Time to
know
go.
people love me and you may not respect this, but and animal lovers, I'm sorry. I said to him, we're talking about a fish this man caught in the ocean in Florida when it was a little baby, bought the fish back to Brooklyn. So it's a Brooklyn fish now. As a matter of fact, his name is Savage. I named him Savage, right? I've had that fish tank in my apartment for almost 2 years, and now I moved back to the owners.
Savage.
And I was pissed. I was like, what do you mean the guy took the fish? And he said to me through his intelligent lips, which I will never forget, he said, when I go to service an aquarium, my first loyalty is the responsibility of the fish. And I was like, what? my friend paid you $400 and something to clean the fish tank, and you took the fish because he said he didn't care if it died. I say all of that to say that when you're talking about a forest, right?
Yeah,
And currently, there's no human beings living there.
Okay.
They're animals, and I realize this is concrete jungle out here, and we need trees, right?
Mhm.
We need air.
Mhm.
To have cut down trees and build a stadium that would generate jobs, right?
Quotation.
No question. It's a real thing. Would generate jobs because somebody's got to build it.
Mhm.
There are all types of people who work in construction.
Mhm.
I believe our founder was part of the team that built the Barclays, right?
Mhm.
I have a couple clients who are in construction as well. And that stadium would, after being built, ideally is not going to sit there like that broken down Coliseum that the gladiators used to fight in. There would be events, right? I also happen to know that under the current sitting mayor,
Mhm.
there was more affordable housing created
Mhm.
during this term than anyone else, right?
Mhm.
So I know a lot of people don't like my boy Eric, but I feel
We're gonna get to that too.
but I feel like we as Black and brown people don't really know what we want. When de Blasio was mayor, people said, oh, he's not Black enough. He's got a Black wife and a half Black son. Now I don't care what you say, Eric Adams is a bliggity Black mayor and unapologetic about it. And so I want people to be very conscious and very in tune with the fact, for the first time in the history of every mayor, even going back to Dinkins, who we love, this is the first time 34.5% of Black and brown owned businesses who took the time to get minority certification have received that funding. I'm talking about $27 billion that went into our community. Now, if we as Black and brown people don't take the time to dust off our books and apply for this certification, because before this mayor, the person who received the most funding for minority certification wasn't a Black man, wasn't a Black woman, it was a white woman, right? That's what minority certification is.
Mhm.
It means a woman of any background and then a Black or brown male, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
besides that, right, there's also now, when it comes to housing insecurities, there's a new program called CRIB.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody's aware of it. Just started in the last week. And so the idea is it's crib and it's a go bag, a baby bag, right? The idea is that no woman who lives in a shelter who's expecting a baby should give birth in a shelter.
Mhm.
So there are three areas, 3 hospitals in Brooklyn, and it's Kings County. So if you're expecting a baby right now, you're in a shelter, you find your way to Kings County. They have housing where they take that expecting woman and whoever her partner is, however they identify, those people get fast tracked into housing and they get a baby bag. So I understand, wanting to fight for the trees, because I tell you, there are days when I'm walking outside and there's no trees and I'm looking for shade. And then it's just the feeling that it gives you. I think it softens people, because when I go out to Long Island, it reminds me of being at home. Or even when I go to Queens, right? You feel like you're in the country. No shade, Queens, but just saying, right? So I think when we talk about the ballots, and I was looking for the answer that you gave, because I've attended some other things and they say when you flip the back, just write no all down the back, right? That is what people are recommending. But I want you, I think Sharon, right? First name, gave us good details and the more kind of formalized way. And then we have you who spoke with passion. And I want to bring it back to what you're recommending. But again, everyone who's watching, you have to read for yourself, take your glasses with your reading glasses. And I've noticed when you go to vote, they don't even watch to see if you're Googling on your phone to see what something means. You can't take
allowed that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to take pictures of the actual ballot when you vote, which I see people doing, because they could take your vote away from you if you do that. But if you don't know who someone is, research it. So I'm going to give it back to you.
Let me help you with the counter to your argument.
Okay.
The federal government just insisted that the city release the rights to apply toxic waste into the Hudson River again.
Yeah,
we
terrible.
just spent billions to clean our waters.
Yep.
Now you are hearing a ballot initiative to build something near the waters that we're conveniently want to spill toxic waste in.
But who is the federal government?
Federal government is Trump. Yeah.
Okay. So
this is true.
And so this is another caveat, right? Why everybody says that the current mayor is in bed with the current president.
I mean, the choices that he made. This is the bed he laid into.
Well, no. So that initiative, and to build that pool that you can swim in the Hudson, which, for the record, I'd said I wasn't going to be swimming in it for some time, right? But I was going to go because I got about 60,000 followers on Instagram and put my feet in the water. I think our mayor is smart enough that if he had the millions or billions invested in that program, he was not intending for what the federal government.
But unfortunately, that's where the problem lies. The road to good intention is it paved with great intentions. Everybody loves these kinds of things. It sounds so sweet until you peel back the layers and says the who, the when, the why right now.
Well, let me ask you something. In a make-believe world, if the former vice president had won the election for president, do you think she would have released toxins into the Hudson or asked for it?
There would be no reason specifically for New York. Now, there, of course, when you start to discover these things are happening because we've promoted a system that says this amount of money needs to be spent. We don't have to care about the waste. We don't have to care about, this is why there's such a disconnect with such a young vote.
Waste management has grown.
Yeah, but I think that's
the companies were responsible for recycling.
They know how to break down a material to the point where they can reuse it again.
We know, do we use it?
Yes,
we know how to do this.
Yes, we do.
We do
use it.
If we have the ability to actually melt down plastic. Not only melt it down, but we can actually eat it, consume it, and reuse it. The companies we have, our gas companies were told in part of their subsidy. Gas companies have a subsidy now in order to control all of our recycling and make sure that recycling goes to where it's supposed to be. Do they do that? We have garbage out the wazoo. We have recycling trash. So, but we're
That's
saying
okay. So that's
all of these good
that's-
intentions that we're putting
that's
for
that's
people
two
to do.
You go
that's
to-
two different things though. That's two different things.
Is
So it
Is
is
it?
because if
Okay.
it's no different than saying it's no different than saying you want to do A through Z. I happen to come into office and I'll give you an example. The president now is tearing down the East Wing,
Yes.
right? And that president wants to build a ballroom that's going to cost about $250 million. That president is also suing the Department of Justice for $250 million, right? After he said he's going to pay for it himself. He's going to pay for it himself after he takes money from us. That's that president. And so in my head, I'm trying to think because my mother used to work on Capitol Hill, and as a young person, I remember going to the White House in line like everybody else in a holiday, and you stand there, and the sitting president comes down, and they wave their hand, and you pretend they waving at you, right? And I said to myself yesterday, does this mean if this guy tears all of this down, that the next president is going to come in and build it right back up? Because that's the kind of
once
conflict.
it's permanent, you can't. It's done.
Nothing is permanent, though.
Yes.
No,
when it comes to
no.
the Constitution,
But he's ignoring the Constitution.
It's extremely hard to undo it.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
But this is why it became so interesting that Trump just showed how you can just kick things over.
No. It's not. It's not interesting. He is living as the seated president the same way he was as the founder of The Apprentice. You know, he doesn't care about anything, and he has his bullies doing it. Just like, and I'm only going to say one thing. We'll go back to the topics at hand. But it's the same thing when it comes to ICE, right? And illegal immigrants. Anyone who's involved in the community understands that the illegal immigrants that are being chased now aren't really illegal, because under the previous administration, the walls were let down and people were invited to come in.
Yes.
And as long as they went in this app and they put all their information and they went to all their appointments, they would be on the road to democracy and being a citizen. So if you realize in that first 100 days, the first thing he did was squash that app. And it's because of that app and the, in my opinion, illegal actions they took to take over other agencies to get everybody's information. They know where to show up to someone's house, someone's doctor's appointment, someone's immigration appointment, right?
But that act wasn't signed in by Congress. That act was actually by the sitting president, which is very different.
But that's my point. We've had 200 and something executive orders. So he's running. And so my point is, whatever he's doing now, you know, removing rights, redistricting, I think is what Sharon pointed out, trying to erase our ability to vote, right? Yeah. Changing history, removing books, things of that nature. And the foreshadowing for tomorrow, Ivanka Trump already said she's running for president in 2028.
Yes.
And her tagline was, "I am not my father." Right? And it's time for a woman president. Well, it was time for a woman president last year, but I digress, right?
Trump even put it out there that he could run himself, which should be illegal, considering whatever we're in. Again, with the Constitution and trying to change it so that a president can have a third term as long as he didn't run consecutively, because if he leaves it just as a third term, that means Obama can come back, but Obama ran consecutively. So I think it's very interesting. You want to save the trees. I want to save the trees too. It's not that we're saying save the trees. We're saying, what are we using the land for? If we're just using it to put money in your pocket, that is not helping us.
But in New
York, as a state, as a community.
But in New York, it's not going into anyone's pocket. So it's not going directly into the mayor's pocket. It's going into the city and the state.
This is a state initiative. The state initiative, what they're doing is they're taking public land and they're
Mhm.
giving it and they're privatizing it. They're
Mhm.
giving it to these companies. Now, if you're
Mhm.
giving it to a company, you're not expecting to get that land back.
No.
You're giving them this. You're giving them this
Yeah.
land and
That's
this money.
Mhm.
So again, we've had this happen in quite a couple of different areas in even
Governor's
New York
Island.
City.
I was
Mhm.
sitting in a
Yeah.
meeting just last night about Governor's Island
Mhm.
being a climate change example.
Mhm.
No government money.
Mhm.
The land is there. They just have to tear down what they feel is detrimental and build.
Mhm.
And
But
build.
how I feel like when we're talking about the stadium, I remember when they were getting ready to build Barclays,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And what did
Someone
they say that they wanted to do with they were going to try to help with affordable housing behind the stadium, which they didn't do.
No,
They
there
were
is,
going
there
to
is,
try
there
to
is, wait,
create a
pathway.
wait,
Yeah.
stop. There
Atlantic
is
Tunnel.
affordable housing attached to the Barclays. That red building has affordable housing.
I'm just gonna put in here.
Yeah.
And excuse me, there were objectives
Can,
that were
can,
set.
can we give,
Ooh.
where's the extra mic? Duke isn't using his.
Get it? Come on. We about to go in today. Yes.
No, there were a number of units that were promised for affordable housing
Mhm.
right now because several of the developers have gone bankrupt.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the project was
Yes.
originally brought on by Forest City Ratner,
Mhm.
then Greenland Capital came on board,
Mhm.
and now I think it's Xtel and another partner, right?
Mhm.
What has not been developed, they've missed the affordable housing objectives. And as part of
The
Brooklyn
objective was
Speaks
not
did in
met, yeah.
2012, a Brooklyn-based organization,
Yeah.
they, with other stakeholders, created the possibility if you do not meet this deadline for the affordable
Yeah.
housing, there are penalties
think-
to be
They're
paid.
paying.
And
right.
wait. And they did not make the deadline. And
So hold on.
EDSC,
Let me just ask a question. When you
And
say
they
they
rather
didn't meet,
pay the penalties.
no, I'm
than do
saying
it.
when
That's true.
when you say didn't meet the deadline,
You were
meaning they
supposed
did
you were by such and such a date,
a certain
units,
number.
X units of affordable
Yeah,
housing.
I actually read.
Atlantic Yards.
I read
This is
something
exactly
that De
what we're talking
Blasio
Yeah, I
put
hear you. I
in.
hear you.
I read something today online on the .gov website, an affordable housing initiative that I wanted to look in, that said there has to be 15,000 new affordable housing units between said date and the end date is next year, 2026.
Correct.
So I just wanted to be clear in that
That's the penalty.
there are some affordable housing units, but we're saying that the number that was agreed upon is not. And I
fall
would
short
yeah.
drastically.
I am in the
And it's so scary because most of these high-rise buildings,
Mhm.
that's why they're allowed to build them, is because they have to have, I'm going between
It's
5
like-
to 10% of
it's-
affordable
it's-
housing in
no.
quotation.
Supposed to.
It's not 5.
Supposedly.
It depends on the tax abatement agreed.
Mhm.
Some of them are 70-30 and some of them are 80-20. I live in a
And
70
who-
30
So
business.
let's
Let's
be clear.
discuss this.
So let's be clear.
Oh, you want to switch on
I'm
this?
gonna let him sit.
We're going in. We're going in.
Come on, get in there.
Because if you never ever let those people in on those numbers,
So let's be clear. There was supposed to be a number of affordable units, right? The
Mhm.
project was taken out of city because it should have been a EULA project, and it was taken over by the state, Empire State Development Corporation project, right? Empire State Development
we're
Corp.
still talking about the Barclays or just in
Yes.
general?
No.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Everything I'm saying is about
The Barclays.
Atlantic Yards,
Okay.
what's
Okay.
been rebranded as Pacific Park.
Okay.
They did not meet their affordability objectives.
Mhm.
Empire State Development Corp, ESDC,
Mhm.
is the quote unquote manager. We know that ESDC is in the business to make it easier for developers to build
Yeah.
projects and not necessarily bring the projects that are needed to the community.
Mhm.
And they were trying to
Did-
figure out a way by which
There's somebody at the door.
they were trying to figure out a way by which they would be able to not pay
Mhm.
because they wanted to transfer from Greenland.
Right.
So like, how are we going to have the damages, right? How are we
Mhm.
going to have the affordability? What you're seeing along the Atlantic Avenue corridor is a rezoning. The Atlantic Avenue mixed use plan. Would it be possible to apply those of the affordability penalties to the housing that will come online on Atlantic Avenue that will not be affordable? And I mean, affordable to people, not affordable to people making less than $90,000
Yep.
a year.
Agreed.
Those are the Brooklynites that are moving to the Bronx.
Mhm.
So Brooklynites are displacing Bronx people, and the Bronx has been gentrified.
Yep.
So we see the continued movement of brown and black communities, right?
Mhm.
But the support is not there, and they definitely did not make their deadlines. And I'm sorry, I couldn't sit down on that. I was like,
that's fine, because we're talking about two different things. So for me, I'm speaking about affordable housing as a whole. That particular program that you're
I'm talking about
to,
the project
no,
specifically.
No, I know. And
Because
so
these
for
the
the
terms
viewers,
of where she's coming from is when we say as a whole, we're listing the examples of which they're saying you're going to get this.
Right.
You find loopholes to get either none or less than.
And not only that, this project has been going on since 2003. We're now in 2025, and we have not developed the required number of affordable units.
They just built. There's a new building. I went and looked at it the other day. 880 Atlantic Boulevard, right? And when I walked through and I looked at some of the rent prices, and there may be four others, even if the building is a 70-30 or 80-20, it's still not enough units, which I understand what you're saying.
So the 70-30 application, it's not applicable to that building, because in terms of the affordability, they looked at the kinds of units and the number of units you would have for affordability. Also, 880 is one of the buildings that got a fresh bonus. So they were able to build additional units, because a fresh bonus is to make sure that you have a supermarket where you can get fresh fruit and vegetables, right? Which was something which there is.
Wait,
the way the
space, it's supposed to be on the same building?
The way this space was built is that I got a fresh bonus. One of the requirements of having the fresh bonus is that you have to have a supermarket on site. So I know way too much about this, but I'm just going to give you.
Supermarket there.
I know way too much about this. But the initial tenant that came forth, because evidently there is a commercial supermarket broker, right? And the initial market they proposed for that site was Union Market. And the community said that was too expensive for the market. Yeah. So there's still discussions, because the developer of the project thought that Union Market might be a good fit, because in a previous fresh application in the same community district, I said I knew way too much about this, right? Which is located at 1499 Bedford, right? Which is the backside of what is Cornbread on Eastern Parkway, right?
I know that building.
There is a Union Market, and the developer, because they knew that there was a Union Market that also came through the fresh process, thought that would be something that the community was highly desirous of, right? And one of the challenges that you have when you have quote unquote gentrification, it becomes much more difficult for you to find the Goya and the beans and the other kinds of projects. And some people perceive Union Market as to be expensive, even though they do offer things. But there has to be a place where you can get affordable goods, right? You know, to eat, especially in these budget conscious times, but it doesn't hurt to have access to things like decaffeinated Earl Grey tea. You know, somebody's going to want it. It's difficult to find in many communities. So it's creating that right mix. But for sure, 880 Atlantic was able to have additional height, because they were a part of the fresh. And they brought fewer than 5 additional of quote unquote affordable units to the project. So
I just went into the building, and for myself, I'm trying to visualize where was the supermarket supposed to go, because
when you use the loopholes appropriately,
it's not a loophole. It's not a loophole. It's a provision, and when you develop, you use the provision. But I can stand here uncategorically knowing that because it got the fresh bonus, there is supposed to be a supermarket on site. I am guessing it is not immediately accessible from Atlantic Avenue. There will be some portion, because actually it's going to front on Atlantic Avenue, because there was a whole discussion as to how people who had cars were going to be able to access the supermarket.
There's a garage to the building itself.
So excuse me, guys. So I would like the veteran to come out now.
That's fine.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I get hyped about housing, you know, and as I said, excuse me, guys, I'm way too deep in the weeds in this. So quite certain. Here you go. Here you go.
Well, as a veteran, I
Before you
appreciate
start
it.
talking, can you introduce yourself so we know who you are?
My name is Christopher James, Navy veteran. I'm CEO of Veterans Action Group Buffalo Soldiers America.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I'm also
Yes.
a board member of Buffalo Soldiers at West Point, a member of Black Veterans for Social Justice, the American Legion,
Mhm.
and the American Legion Dory Miller Post.
Okay.
And I just want to say, as we start, as a veteran, I'm very interested in what happens with the community, because what I understand as a veteran, and what one of my mentors, Mr. Herbert Sweat, who passed away,
Mhm.
we are hosting a parade tomorrow, and we're gonna memorialize Mr. Herbert Sweat because he mentored a lot of veterans. He actually told us, "You went overseas, you fought for this country, you come back home, you're gonna just sit there and let the country go down. You're supposed to fight for America the same way you fight for it overseas. Fight for it here."
Mhm. Where is
So,
the parade?
The
Where's
parade is going to be on Eastern Parkway. It starts at Rogers Avenue and it
Okay.
ends at Grand Army Plaza.
Okay, and
It
what
starts
time?
at 12 o'clock
12
tomorrow. 12 o'clock
There
tomorrow.
is so much happening tomorrow.
Yes.
There's a resource fair at Renaissance.
Mhm.
There's a lot of cancer walks. So if you
Yes.
don't see me show my face at
Mhm.
the veteran fair, because my dad, my biological father, is a
Mhm.
veteran as
veteran.
well, right? It's because I couldn't get to every
Everything.
place.
Okay.
But again,
Mhm.
that's tomorrow, as in Saturday, the
October
October 25th,
Yes.
from beginning at
12
12.
p.m.
So it's starting at Rogers.
At Rogers
and it's
Avenue. Yes. And
Rogers and Eastern Parkway.
Eastern Parkway. Rogers and Eastern Parkway. It ends at Grand Army Plaza, where we're going to have a small ceremony at the Arch.
Okay, nice.
And there's going to be a resources fair for veterans and their families and the community at large. That's going to be at Grand Army Plaza. We're
And so
using as
traffic people, please stay away from the area where the parade is.
No, we're gonna. I'm trying to use it so that we wouldn't affect the traffic. We want to traffic. Our footprint wouldn't affect the traffic. It
Oh,
would be
you're
in
walking.
the mall.
Oh,
It's gonna
okay.
be
So you're
in
just
the
gonna
mall.
walk down the
street,
on the sidewalk
on the
or in the
sidewalk.
street?
We're gonna be using the street on
Okay.
Eastern Parkway.
Mhm.
Our parade is gonna take about because only a mile and a half,
Okay.
so it's gonna take about an hour,
Okay.
45 minutes to get
Okay.
there. And then we're all gonna go into the mall of the Grand Army Plaza.
Oh, nice.
So everything will be self-contained in there, but you can come in. We want to invite everybody to come in. There's going to be a lot of resources.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, most veterans in Brooklyn and New York City knows Mr. Herbert Sweat.
Mm-hmm.
He was a 4-time Bronze Star winner.
Okay.
And we're going to be honoring him. So,
oh, nice.
Yes. And I want to say all of this, like I said, as a veteran, we want to pay attention to what goes on in our community because we represented America overseas.
Right.
We come back home,
Mhm.
we're supposed to fight for what America means at
Yeah.
home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's paramount, tantamount. So all of the community things I'm hearing, we veterans supposed to be involved.
That's true.
Gentrification shouldn't happen because veterans should pool together. They have the resources. They have the GI Bill.
Mm-hmm.
They have business incentives that they should get together, buy some of these houses.
Right.
Even right now, there's something that a lot of people don't even know. New York City is going to afford any veteran who has 1% of the down payment up to $1.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 1% of the down payment, they're going to finance you with Sonima to buy a 4-story building for investment purposes.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of programs for veterans that a lot of people don't know. And right now, the oh my goodness, I can't think of the name, but I do funding. I help people get grants and loans. Early this year, I got an award for generating $4.3 million. And for veterans, besides contacting the credit union, there is a resource that I use a lot. And on this phone, I don't have the app and I cannot think of it. It's going to kick my behind. But they also give like low interest rate loans. They help a lot of the Black farmers.
Oh, yes.
If I can think of it
The
before.
IRRL.
No, I've heard of that one too. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe USAA.
USAA, okay.
Yes.
USAA, along with there's something you say farm, there's a vet farmer coalition, which helps veterans even in the inner city establish community gardens to help them with PTSD as a form of therapy. So it's agri-therapy that helps you get into agribusiness.
Right.
So we're developing something along those lines also in Georgia.
That's
5-acre
nice.
property.
And
Is there equitable funding for those who specifically, there are enough cultures who have not received enough wealth from grandparents to great grandparents to their parents passed down to even afford 1%? Where is the equitability to allow
you're talking about a veteran.
I'm talking about even
everybody.
because I have enough of Black veterans is that the number one homeless when it comes to New York City of homeless. It's the highest of New York City homeless is Black veterans. Then the second is Black youth, or actually no, LGBT youth, period. So I mean, I love what we're saying, but what meets the middle? Like, do we have like lottery winners who are like giving away like $1,000 to like different Black families to allow them to do that? What are we doing?
I think there's I think there's not enough money. New York is also going through reparations right now. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, right?
California is talking about reparations, and they've actually signed a bill to do it.
New York is as well. So I attend those meetings. You can go to the .gov site and register for those emails. I think there was one meeting at Weeksville. I think there are a lot of different programs for mental wellness. There's a lot of programs to allocate dollars and cents to people. But the problem is getting the information out to our community, right? That today I registered for I went to NewYork.gov website, and there you can pick every city agency you want and receive notifications. So about 30 agencies in the city, I turned on alerts. One was for veterans, because for me, information, knowledge, that's my business, right? And you'd be surprised the things that pop into your mailbox. And last Thursday, I went to a procurement training at the mayor's office, which was given by the director of international affairs. And they were saying how there's $47 billion in funding just from city and state taxes. And there was another 400 million from somewhere else. And what was interesting when I sat there, when I think about international affairs, because I've worked outside of the country, I'm thinking about outside the United States. But as I listened, and I do hear an accent with you speaking as well, there were people from Serbia, Russia, Asia, and the Caribbean. And to qualify for those international affair dollars and cents for procurement for your business, all you have to do is have that beautiful accent, be a first generation, be from somewhere else, and register. And there's all these government grant contracts available. And so part of that is knowledge.
But now we're discussing ICE in the same breath that's like now on steroids. We're discussing like literally most of when it comes to your certifications, when it comes to colleges, the way they were designed, when it comes to even medical, was specifically the reason why we don't even have universal health care was because it was Black people could get it too. Like the inherent racism in how the system was designed does not even allow for yes, we have these programs, they exist. How are you going to get there? Like there's this weird hurdle that we never really discuss. We keep saying that, yes, you can go get it. It's there. Until you actually take a moment and say, why did you design it just that way? Why didn't you design it so that we can comment and communicate with each other to get something?
I disagree with that.
Because you hear what you said, because you designed it that way. One of the things that I heard the host says is information is paramount. You must have information, self-awareness. One of the things we do as an organization to help bring self-awareness to our veterans is to the community at large, tell stories about what Black veterans have done. I heard you say the Black Panthers earlier.
He said Grey Panthers.
Grey Panthers.
No, he said Grey Panthers. You said Black Panthers. But let me ask you something. Do you know what the original Black Panthers movement, what a group would call the Black Panthers?
Oh, it was a different name. I don't remember.
Okay, well, the Black Panthers was actually a World War II tank battalion that broke through the German line and headed into Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
They never told you that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know that story.
History will be
a black unit was the spearhead through the Battle of the Bulge that ended up taking the U.S. Army into Berlin.
So
So
most things that are great in the United States started with Black people, right? So where I cannot, my stepfather and my stepbrother are historians, so they would have known that answer. I've been taught it, but did not remember. Yeah. I think I want to go back to kind of what we're saying is, and the part that I get discouraged about, and I love about our people is that sometimes in certain rooms we have the discussion where we keep talking about what's wrong with you, Duke. You sound like you're about to go off. What's wrong? Yeah, right.
We're having fun now. We're having fun.
And he looks like he's about to have a heart attack. Some of the part that discourages me is that we have one set of people. Will you just talk? Because I don't know what you're saying.
Go ahead.
Are you ready to end?
Soon.
Yes.
Oh,
okay. So I can't. It's sign language, right? We sit in rooms, and for me, there's a demographic of us that points out why things aren't a certain way. That same demographic doesn't try to use the things that are there, right? One of the biggest problems in our community is that I think as some of the young people they don't remember that at some point they're going to become an elder. There's not enough respect for our elders, right? For me, I see it a lot more because I don't have family here, right? The amount of seniors that I go and visit that have adult children right in Brooklyn that don't check on them is insane to me. I mean, insane.
Imagine going through the 80s where you're missing a whole entire generation.
I get it.
You're missing a whole generation of family.
But listen to me. It is 2025. And if we keep talking about what wasn't or was whatever, right, from yesterday, we're losing our current generation of youth, right? And so for me, you know why
wait, let me finish. I heard you there. But let me tell you, part of the thing about reaching into our youth is they don't have respect for us elders. You know why? Because they think we never did anything, because that's the current narrative. People are saying that the people in the elders, the people who get older, they didn't do anything.
No,
so wait, one second. Yes. No, but wait a minute, hold up. No, because you're saying that what we did in the past. Yes,
that's not what I said.
But the kids think that we contributed nothing, because the narrative is no. The narrative that the media, until podcasts and YouTube, alternative media and stuff like that came around, most people don't even know that there's all of these Buffalo Soldier stories. One other thing, I'm gonna bring it up. Traore in Africa, the whole world, they were appalled and amazed on April 30th because all of these Black people around the world stood still for Abraham Traore. You know Abraham Traore?
Yeah. So
but you see,
I think you missed.
But I'm not.
The point I was trying to make is when you were a child, right, or a young person growing up, you're 15, whatever age, your mental state is not forward thinking about when you're 60. Because when you're a kid, you feel invincible. You feel like you're gonna live forever, right? This age of young people is growing up with social media.
But they're not growing up feeling invincible.
They're not,
if you've noticed that there's the job market for your young people is almost non-existent. When you're noticing that the housing market is almost, your young people have grown on apocalypse upon apocalypse upon apocalypse.
They're looking at the
for
older
the past 30 years. So what is your young people can't even see where you have older people ready to retire on what?
And they feel they don't have anything.
But you allowed your white older counterparts to steal from you,
Oh,
and now your children have nothing.
No,
and now their children have nothing too, and we're
see,
both sitting in the same.
that's the feeling that they think that they have nothing. Yes, they do, because then if you, I go back to my history again, because then there's Benjamin Banneker, people who created stuff.
Yeah,
How many kids know this stuff? You understand what I'm saying?
You fought for your own country, and you were disrespected by the own country that you fought for, even today.
But
you
narrative,
talk about young people, how they have disrespect.
No. Yes, they do. You know why? Because before, you know why? If we don't let our young folks know that their history is have such what do you say, such meat roots.
You want to come sit here?
You understand? If they have such roots and meat, that they would think that you didn't do anything. When I say the disrespect, I said is this, because now when you're growing up, we as adults have to get a job from whom? Our kids look at it and say, we work slave hard, and like you were just saying, and we have to go get a job. So you can't tell them anything, because you're bringing home money that you ain't really make. You're getting it from somebody else. But
So
how do you counteract that?
So,
No.
I didn't grow up in that.
I didn't say you.
No, you're. Let me just.
Go ahead.
For
Guys,
the ballot
I'm gonna
vote no for all.
we're gonna
No. Okay, I got
thank you guys. It's getting a little late now.
Can I speak again in my parade for tomorrow?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I know I'm a veteran. Like I said, I'm very much into community things, and I am so my heart is broken that my mayor decides to drop out. I still had hope that he's on the ballot, and I was campaigning, even he wasn't. Okay, I brought new kids on to vote for him because his name is there. But I have to speak on my parade, and I would like you to come out because it's a historical moment that our veterans going to be marching on Eastern Parkway. And a lot of people don't know that on Eastern Parkway, there are plaques dedicated to veterans from Nostrand Avenue all the way to Washington Avenue. So it's a history of Eastern Parkway representing our veterans. Now, we are here and we want to, the arch is reopening, and we want to end our parade at the arch, the first event celebrating veterans at the reopening of the Grand Army Plaza Memorial, Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Arch in Brooklyn. So please come on out tomorrow and support us. And I talk to the host. He talk about grants, and I'm paying for this out of my own pocket. I have funding is minimal. I don't want to do that. So we'll talk.
Join the young people for Zoran. Seeing Elville, you can
please stop. Please. I don't want to talk about this. This is not my show. I do also do a radio show called Veterans Corner. It airs on WPAT at 9 to 10 on Saturdays. Okay. And we only deal with veterans issues, and like what I say, veterans has to come back to the community. So you're
gonna do your show tomorrow and then send everyone?
No, tomorrow I'm taking. I taped it before.
Do you have any of the local city officials walking with you?
Well, I would love to have them. I mean, since that he endorsed Cuomo, if Cuomo could come on out, and we're gonna have about 5,000 veterans on Eastern Parkway tomorrow, so he should come on out and celebrate.
I think it's unfair to tell him the night before.
He wants a Brooklyn veteran vote, inner city veteran vote.
Can I just make one suggestion? Going forward, when you have your events, your local city council members and assembly members, they have funds that they get into the districts. I'm just going to say, go visit your city council member proactively.
I did. I submitted my discretionary funds in February. Crystal Hudson made sure I submitted funding. I'm calling her name because she called me, say she wants to submit for the parade for next year. And then when time comes, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say, listen, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it. Her staff member, I called and I said, you all did not allocate any money for the veterans. They said, veterans are not a very important issue. They're not a big demographic in that district, the 35th. And I was like, oh. And I can't wait to see Miss Hudson to tell her what he said.
Okay. And on that note, we're going to end Community Cuts, and we're going to reach out to her as well because she's been on the show recently. Yes. Tonight was very exciting. So thank you, Stephanie Wedderburn. Sharon. Look, I had changed your name and everything. Sharon Wedderburn. Everybody go out and vote Don't forget to flip the ballot. Christian says to elect no all the way down in the back. And for the Veterans Day Parade, Eastern Parkway and Rogers, 12 o'clock, walking to Grand Army Plaza. And for me, I just say we look forward to seeing you next week. And we're running late. And everybody go vote. I think I'll vote tomorrow. Are you voting tomorrow, Sharon? I was supposed to be at Renaissance for the cancer walk thing tomorrow at 8 a.m. But maybe I'll go vote tomorrow first so you can talk about it. All right.
Thank you.
Happy Friday. Good night.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And shout out to Leading Salon for staying extra late and letting us run our mouth.
Oh, we had a spirited show, family in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you know you're my family. Salon Lee Hing hosted us, 732 Washington Avenue between Prospect Place and Park Place. Thank you for joining Community Cuts live from Brooklyn, New York.